Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I feel really guided to talk about, it's a pretty big topic, but I'm just going to trust that my higher self is going to speak through me and I'm going to be able to get it all out. But just kind of like the journey out of the third dimensional consciousness, the consciousness that we're conditioned into, the limitation, lack, everything I'm always talking about in the readings, right? I kind of just feel like I want to break it down, the journey out of that consciousness and into unity consciousness and the passageway between the fourth dimension. So third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. The fourth dimension being the one of extreme polarity and also the one with the most potential trapping systems, which is all part of the journey and part of how we're alchemizing polarities to come into unity. But I feel like, so today's 12/12, and if you watched that 12/12 reading that I did, there was a lot of talk and cards around completion and, kind of like being held in the arms of the goddess and the mother. And so here we are on this day. And it's like, I'm very, very, very much feeling that this really is a time where we're completing this kind of trek through the fourth dimension where a lot of us are able to kind of like all of a sudden like shake the dust out of our eyes and be like, oh my God, I can see clearly now what this whole game was and how to just leave it behind. So I feel like it's a time when it's just a really potent time to talk about these things and to bring them into our awareness, because it is possible to see clearly what wasn't very which wasn't as easy to see before. And so okay, so I think I want to start by talking about this dream that I had. It could have been 10 years ago. It was a dream with my grandmother, and so we were in this big room and we were weaving. We were working on a weaving project, and she didn't look like my grandmother, but I knew it was her. And so there was a loom, and it was at the top of this like it was a ladder, like a wooden ladder, like how you would go up to like a loft, in an upper part of a room. But there was just this platform up there. It was just this platform, and the loom was up there. This was only big enough for her and the loom. So she was at the top and I was at the bottom, and I had this thread, this part of the fabric we were weaving, and it was pulling apart. And so I was pulling it, and the fibers were like going like this, and she was like, no, you need to cut it with scissors. Like, it has to be cut evenly. It has to be cut evenly, or we won't be able to weave them back together later. Okay, and so that was the gist of the dream, and I had no idea what it meant, but it comes back to me all the time, and especially since 2012, when the world went into extreme polarity. Okay, and it's like you were either on one side of the fence or another, and it was like very clear. You could very clearly see, like, the difference between this one and that one, whereas before, everything was sort of homogenized. Like, I heard the analogy once of, like, if you have mud, if you have dirt in a jar and you shake it all up, it's like you can't see, it's not clear. It's like the mud and the water are all mixed in, they all look like one thing. Whereas if you have oil in the water, you can see the bubbles of oil and you can say, okay, that's water, that's oil, and you could, it's like that. It's like it's separated out so you can see it. And that's the importance of the fourth dimension, because it does separate things out. It brings things out into polarity where you can see them. In third dimensional consciousness, you can't see. You just take everything for granted. There was an example that I was thinking of. Oh yeah, it was the example of, like, there are people in town here that, like, just certain people that, like, I mean, it's a small town, so, like, I love everyone, and, like, I have, well, it's changing now, there are more people coming in, but it's like, for when I first moved here, it's like I had young kids and you got to know everyone, but there were just certain people that I was kind of just like, oh, I just don't feel like I can be myself. Like, my throat chakra always closes up. I feel like I'm really guided not to, like, say anything, and I always just kind of, like, took it upon myself, like, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, and once things got divided where, like, you could separate the oil from the water, it was like, oh, no wonder I never felt comfortable with that person, because you see how they're handling, you see how they're aligning or what their beliefs are, and it's like, it just was really cool. It showed me my intuition, how I could intuitively, once the things separated out and you could see who was in one camp and who was in the other, you could see how, your inner perception, my inner perception was guiding me and showing me I could feel the energy before I had proof of it. Okay, but so that's sort of a difference, in third dimensional consciousness. You have you have no idea. You don't know what anything is. And as you start to awaken and you move into more of a fourth dimensional consciousness, things start to become kind of stark. And the illusion in that is that you can start to think that that's really how it is. You can feel kind of depressed because it's like, oh my gosh, everything's so extreme, and there's these people over here and I'm over here and I feel so separate. And it's like, how many, like, with the whole some of the issues and the divisions around that time, and like, I wasn't invited to my dad's like 80th birthday party because I wasn't, and which is fine, I totally understand, but it's like stuff like that where you're kind of like, oh God, I'm being rejected for who I am and my alignments and my choices. And it was just a time of like extreme, but humanity was moving into fourth dimensional consciousness, which is really exciting because we were moving out of being asleep, we were moving out of being unconscious, we were moving out of more and more of us, right? But even people, even if you don't consider somebody to be like awake and aware of like what's going on in the world, they were still moving into fourth dimension because they were still observing the polarity. They were still seeing, and being confused and like frustrated and angry by the people that weren't doing it right? That's still fourth dimensional consciousness. So this is still humanity moving into a new dimensional frequency, okay? And really important. What's interesting is this all happened right after, if you've been watching the videos where I've been talking about the blue light infusions, that happened through the pyramids, they happened 3 times in November. And so the very first one that ever happened was November 18th, 2019, right before the pandemic. So it's like, that's, kind of when humanity started, like a big chunk of people started moving into fourth dimensional consciousness, which you have to go through to get to fifth dimensional, to get to unity consciousness. So again, it's like the grandmother dream where she was like, they have to be separate. They have to be visibly separate. They can't be enmeshed. You can't have some fibers of this one into this one. There has to be a clear cut. You know what this is, you know what this is, and then once you know what this is and you know what this is, then you can unify them. You can bring them back together. But you have to be aware of both. You can't have them homogenized. The togetherness of third dimensional consciousness is not higher consciousness. It's just unconsciousness, right? But once you see them as separate and then you weave them back together again into oneness, then that's true unity, because you know what they are and you can accept them both. So again, it's like, the light and the dark, and the purpose of the dark as well. So the other thing about the fourth dimension is that it's the astral realm. It's where the astral realm exists. Okay, and so it's where the darker, the darker entities reside. So, but it's also where the light entities reside. So a lot of people, as you start to move into fourth dimensional consciousness, you might start connecting with your higher aspects. You might start becoming aware of, angelic presence or your galactic aspects. It's like, the astral realm, the spiritual realm opens up to you. But again, it's a realm of extreme polarity. So there's going to be light and there's going to be dark. So, you can be talking to an entity thinking it's your higher self, and it can be, a lower density entity tricking you to feed off of your energy, to get you to maneuver in ways so you can be a food source for it, okay? And this kind of stuff happens a lot when I was younger. I was sort of like naturally, maybe all kids do, I don't know, but I really hung in the astral realm a lot, and I had a lot of interference. I had a lot of, like demon type stuff around me. I would feel things poke me, and like I'd hear my name, or I'd wake up and the bed would be shaking and the walls would be dripping, and I was really tormented, but I was also really connected. I had like a channel, and I would just lay awake at night and like have all these like cosmic insights and stuff like that. But I was really scared of the devil. I was scared of possession. I was scared of aliens, and eventually I just kind of shut it all down because I was scared and I didn't know what to do with it. And then later, when everything got opened back up through trauma, it all came back on again, and I had to learn how to navigate it. So that's one of the things as well. In the fourth dimension, we can start to explore spirituality, but we also have to learn how to navigate the terrain. But again, in that realm, there's light and dark, and they're both important. Okay, so so let me gather myself a moment here. Okay, so where does this want to go next? I think it's kind of an honoring this passage where it's really tricky and there are trapping systems in it. For example, you can get really caught up in the judgment and in the right and wrong and in the, I'm like the whole sheeple thing and the pure blood thing, and just like, I'm better than you because I'm awake. And it's like, it is a wonderful thing to be awakened and to be able to see through the agendas and all that. But to hold the consciousness of polarity, you're still in that realm. You're still matching the frequency of the agenda, really, because the agenda is to divide. The whole point is to move into unity and to move into the oneness, which is the truth of reality, to graduate and transcend the density of third dimensional consciousness, but also fourth dimensional consciousness. So a trapping system, the ego trapping system, it really plays to the ego, where we want to feel better than, we want to feel that, that we have it going on and others don't, and when are they gonna, blah, blah, blah. We all kind of went through that, but I feel like more and more people are again graduating out of that and just kind of having this acceptance of like everybody's journey and everybody's process, and the realization that we need, again, we need, like the grandmother's dream, we need both sides, and we need to be able to see both sides. To be like frustrated and angry and hateful towards a polarity, the opposite polarity to the one that you're on, is it's separation consciousness, because you're viewing things as wrong. But when you can see it as, it's the catalyzing force, because it creates that contrast, it creates emotions, it creates something to alchemize and to digest and to kind of like process it against, and it awakens you, it evolves you into your alignment. And so when we can know that, and we stop resisting the polarity, and we know that it's there, it's part of the perfect plan of wholeness. We view it from that higher perspective. We start to reach more into the fifth dimensional, the higher unity perspective. While we might still be in 4D, we start to bring in more of that, where we can see the purpose, we can see the place of it, we can see how it is necessary. Am I getting this point across? It's like, I want to verbalize it well. It's like, you have to be able to see both. And part of seeing both, okay, you have to be able to accept both, because accepting that it is the opposites, it is the opposites that that creates the spark, it creates the contrast, and it creates the spark to awaken to a higher perspective, to awaken to the perspective of wholeness. So it's very much a part of it. And the same thing with the entities and the darker energies. So we have a lot of programming, of course. We have a lot of programming from the third dimensional consciousness that we're trying to shift. That's part of what we're doing in the fourth dimension. We're releasing and clearing these fear programs, okay? So that our cellular embodiment, our bodies, our psyches, our minds, our emotions are a clear channel to receive, my kitty, to receive the higher frequencies that are coming in. It's like from starting in 2012, we moved into the Pleiadian photon belt. So we've been receiving information, galactic information, ever since that time. So there's all this information coming in through our sun and through the cosmos and through everything. So it's like to clear out that stuff so that we can receive that information, those light codes can activate our bodies, so that our bodies can start to resonate at a higher frequency, so that we can move out of range of the trapping systems, but out of range of disease, out of range of manifesting a negative timeline, manifesting from the conditioning. Okay, so part of the fourth dimension being a place where we can clear. And so the contrast, how do we clear? We have to get triggered. We have to confront our emotions. We have to confront the shadow pieces. So the contrast of the other side, the other polarity, triggers us, and it gets us to do that, like wide scale. So all the anger, all the frustration, all the fear, all the doubt. What is the kitty doing? What are you doing? Oh, she's in a basket. Of course, she's in a basket. It gets us to it gets us to feel those things, so we can alchemize them, okay? And we can get stuck in them, especially when we love to. It's like, the danger of gossip, right? When we love to get together with people and like bitch about what, like, how these other people are doing things wrong, and we just do it online, and we just do it, and then we attack people, and it can just keep us stuck in that cycle. So that's like, one of the things to be aware of, right? If we're stuck in the cycle, or if we're gossiping a lot, or thinking we know more, then it's fine. But it's like we're prolonging our process, and we're prolonging the evolution of humanity, because we're contributing to the very division that we're mad about. If we're fighting against the division, then we're contributing to the division, because what we give our focus and our attention to, we're feeding and we're perpetuating. Okay, so there's that. But the other thing is, as we're feeling those emotions, we're feeling that anger, we're feeling all of this, and the ideal again is to feel it, and to let it alchemize us, to let it kind of like burn off enough of the density within us that we alchemize and we clear. So to really honor the process, and to really feel it to the point, because a lot of the times the talking and the venting and the attacking, we're just dispersing the energy because we don't like the way it feels in our body, and we want to get rid of it, and we think, and it does get rid of it, kind of diffuses it, but it doesn't alchemize it. It just gets it out and it spreads it all around, and then we're feeding the very system that we're mad about. But if we can just really hold it in our bodies, and to the point where you might even think you're going to have a nervous breakdown, or you might even think that you're going to die, or you might even think that you can't do it anymore, or you just you feel like you have to go on anti-anxiety medicine, or whatever, or maybe you already are, or maybe it's like whatever it is, you feel like you're going to absolutely break, but you let it break you, because that's the alchemy, and that's when you jump a level, and that's when you go up higher. So it's kind of like in labor, like when if you're a woman and you've given birth, but then this, but if you haven't, or a natural birth, you moan, like moaning, and kind of this, it kind of like helps you hold some of the pain. But the more you can kind of like be with the pain, and just kind of like really be with it, the faster the labor goes, because you're just able to like let it like really work you, like where you don't have any fear of pain, you don't have any fear of emotion, you don't have any fear of death. You just let these things like burn like a fire, and then you alchemize. And so that's a way to move through the fourth dimension really fast, right? Because it really up levels your energy, it clears you, it clears stuff, it clears it off, and so that more can come in, so you can be activated by that higher light. Your pineal gland starts to hook on, and then you're able to, that's when you can start to access more of the spiritual dimension. Okay, so then here comes the entities, right? So as we're purging and we're feeling all these emotions, the lower entities, the lower energies, again, if there's angels, there's devils. It's the world of polarity. In the fifth dimension, there's both. Okay, so it's like when they have to feed off the lower emotions, they have to feed off that. So that's part of the whole thing of like the news and all like the scary things and the fear tactics. It's like get everybody afraid, and like feed all those entities, feed all of it, and keep people disempowered and afraid and all that. And so, but it's the same thing when we're mad, it's the same thing when we're fighting, it's the same thing when we're arguing, when we're in those denser energies, in the polarity. We're feeding the very astral entities that we're trying to clear. Because when we clear our own cellular structure from those programs, we're also clearing the astral realm. And when we can clear the astral realm, it makes things a lot easier for humanity, because a lot of why things are really hard and we get stuck in these patterns is because of the negative entities, because they can literally take over our or supplant thoughts in our brains. Like, sure, it stems from us, we have shadow and we have negative thinking, and it's not like to blame, these entities, but they're a part of it. They feed off of that. They feed off of it, and they enhance it, and they want to keep us in that cycle, because it perpetuates them. When the astral field is really clear of these denser energies, it's like we're free, a lot of how we're held down is from that, on the astral level. It's like the physical level, there's all the things going on in the world, all the conditioning and all the fear programs and all that's visible, but there are invisible things as well. So we're cleaning up both realms. We're cleaning up the 3D, we're cleaning up the 4D, the 4D being representative of the astral realm. Okay, and then 5D being the quantum field, the unity consciousness, the unity field, where everything collapses into one. Okay, where you're beyond all that. It's a whole other game. Okay, but in the lower dimensions, there is a game, and there are different kind of like ways to maneuver. Okay, so we're talking 4D right now, right? Okay, so these entities, how long did I talk for? 19 minutes. So these these entities, you know, feeding off of us, perpetuating. So sometimes when you have like a looping, recurring issue that keeps coming back and coming back, a lot of the times it's, again, this is what I was saying, it originates with fear programs that you haven't cleared yet within yourself. But it gets exaggerated by these denser energies, because when you go into fear and anxiety, they can feed off of you. So they'll enhance the thoughts. And you can, if you tune in, you can tell when you feel like an icky presence, or you feel like there's just an added, like, I don't know if you're like, it's kind of similar to like in a positive way, like telepathy, you know, like in the astral realm. If you're thinking about somebody, you can tell when they join you in thought back, you know, where all of a sudden it just feels like more. There's just like more. It just gets bigger, and it's kind of overwhelming, and you're like, oh my God, it's so loud in here, you know, because somebody else's consciousness is joining you, you know, and you're thinking about each other, and then usually, like, you know, somebody will call or whatever. Sometimes it happens really fast, but sometimes it can just go on and on, where like nobody's really making a move, but you know, you're bigger because that other person's there. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the entities, where you might be having your own little private fear thought, and it feels a certain way, and it's manageable. But sometimes it gets really, really big, where you're just like, oh my God, you know, and it's like, that's why, because there are actual entities adding to that and then feeding off of you. And if you can sort of like fine tune your perception, just notice next time you're in kind of a cycle where you're worrying about something, just kind of like tune in and entertain the fact that there might be extra energies around swarming around, feeding off of you. And so that's when you can take action. You can be proactive, and you can be like, okay, I'm going to sage, I'm going to do the singing bells, because they hate that, you know. I'm going to say one of the things that I say is, in the name of the Christ, you are bound and defeated, leave now and go to the light, you know, and it works. Or put on high frequency music, or now it's like, you know, so, and there's also a difference between like when you're dealing with like actual, like when you're, and I talked about this when I was talking about the with a fear threshold and the dark night of the soul. When you're about to cross through a threshold, and you're about to jump into a next level, that's when they'll really come around. Especially if you hold a lot of light, you know, they want to keep you down, they want to keep you in range. Because if you're a lot of light, and if you have a lot of light, and you also have like fear and anxiety, you're like a fucking feeding friend, you know, you're a food source, you know. So they want to keep that, you know. If you liberate out from that, it's like, oh God, you know. So yeah, just to be aware of that. Like sometimes there's some pretty heavy demons. I know this is a heavy topic, but you know, it's reality. And it's like, some people say like, oh, you know, it's just your shadow and there are no demons and that's not real. But it's like, if you're clairvoyant or clairaudient or clairsentient, and you've danced with Satan, then you know it's real. You know it's real. And I know so many people, including myself and my daughter, my daughter and I used to watch them jump back and forth between us. Like, I'd be struggling with one. I wouldn't be aware of it at first, because it often sounds like your own thoughts, and you're so used to the energy that you don't even notice. And I've had them around me since I was a kid, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not being a food source anymore, you know, and I'd cast it out. And then she'd be across the room, and she'd be like, oh my God, the bitch jumped on me. Because like all of a sudden she'd start having all these, like, she'd just get this wave of fear, and she'd start worrying about something. And it's like, it happens all the time, and we don't even notice it. But her and I, we both kind of have that perception, and we talk about stuff all the time. So it's like we really learned a lot in observing, you know, observing this. Okay. And so anyway, there are the really heavy duty ones that are really fucking scary, where you kind of have to. In fact, I had somebody write to me the other day, off of the website I have for the energy work sessions, and he was talking about how he was living on this property with this person that committed suicide, and he was just being really, really tormented. Okay. And so and that it's not like a service. My service is for for energy work, or I do the tarot readings now, but I did give him some advice, and it was kind of like, well, you know, you like they can't hurt you, like they can't do anything to you. They can just torment you, they can confuse you, they can make you feel powerless, they can make you feel afraid. But if you just kind of have boundaries, and you know, this is when you're dealing with the heavy ones, you know, the really scary ones. It's like, if you can just, because that's what I got to. I was tormented for like 6 weeks in a row, and I was really scared, and like some nights I would have to stay up for like 11 hours in a row, just telling myself, like, my divinity is more powerful than you, you know, like, I don't like your energy, and I'm afraid, but I know you can't hurt me. And I just had to do it over and over and over again. And this was after like weeks of like having night terrors and like being afraid and being a feeding frenzy. But I finally figured it out. Like, you know, I couldn't battle them. I didn't have to battle them. I didn't have to, like, cast them out over and over and over again and sage consistently. When you're working with the younger, the easier ones, you can literally be like, fuck off, like absolutely not, and they'll just go away. Like last night, I was actually having, as I was sleeping, I kept seeing these like little mini things where I was like unlocking a door, and then behind the door was like it was actually Jack from The Shining, which I had watched recently, but his mouth was like, it was like, they were little demons. They were little demons trying to scare me, and I would just be like, oh my God, go away. They're like flies, you can just be like, go away, go away. It's not a big deal. But when you're dealing with the big ones, it's like, they feel horrible. And just to know that like when the energy feels like that and you feel really scared, it's like they can't do anything to you. They're just trying to feed off your energy. So it's kind of impossible to not be scared, but you can at least tell yourself like, I'm safe. They're going to get bored, as long as I don't feed them, they're going to get bored and they're going to go away. They're just testing me. They're trying to hold me down. They're trying to keep me from going up that next level. And you can, like when I was younger, I shut everything down. Because I was scared. But it's like now I'm just like, you're not stopping me. Nothing's stopping me. I'm going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and you can torment me. And that's what I said to them that one time. The first time it happened, it was 6 days straight. And then it was like 6 weeks straight. I'd get little breaks, but as soon as nighttime would come, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to come back. But it's like, I would just say to them, like, you can hang around if you want, but I'm a light being and I'm aligned with unity consciousness. And if you want, you can come with me. Like, you can choose a different path as well if you want, but you're not turning me away. So hang out as long as you want, but it's not going to work. And then it didn't take long until they fucked off. But yeah, it's like the main thing is to just know that the energy that you feel, the feel that you fear, is just how they feel. Like they don't have souls, so they have a creepy feeling, and they're gross and they're disgusting, but that's just how they feel. They can't help it. But my point in saying all that is they strengthen us. When you face demons like that, the heavy hitter ones, when you become aware, when you choose to become aware, and you notice when you start to enter deeper into the fourth dimension, where you start to see behind into the spiritual. You don't see only the light. If you see only the light and not the dark, then it's not unity. You're only seeing half. And that's the thing with my grandmother's dream, and the oil in the water. You need to be able to see both. That's part of the initiation. Not everybody has to do this. I mean, just those of us that kind of signed up to do this really consciously, and we're doing it for a lot of humanity. But for those of you that are resonating with this, if this is my intention is just to illuminate some subtleties of energies. If you do feel that you're engaging with some of this, just to help you understand and to help you move through it, because you obviously, if you're experiencing this, you signed up for it. You signed up to be in service in this way, and I feel moved and guided to share about this in support. So just offering that support. Okay, so anyway, but to be, if you are here, if you are an older soul and you are here to claim your co-creative power, creation in the realm of polarity is knowing both polarities, so that you can have both integrated. That's like the Magician in the tarot deck, or the Temperance card, where you have all the elements. You have all of it. You have all of it. You need all of it to create. So you need access to both. And so anyway, but the point is that those interferences and those darker energies, whether it comes in the form of if you're aware of the entities, or if you are dancing with Satan like some of us do, and going really deep in and like dismantling that like reptilian belt around the planet, thank you for joining in that. Or if it's or if you're struggling with if you don't know that you're feeding the entities, but you are kind of struggling with the polarization, and still being angry, and still being worried, and still being upset about the world, to know that all of it is important, and that all of it is a catalyst, and the point of it, because everything is in service to the light, the point of it is to catalyze you into your power. To catalyze you into your power, to claim your divinity, to claim your power as a creator being, and to know that through your focus and through your choice, you can claim that you have the power, simply by aligning with and giving your attention to that higher timeline, to that higher heaven on earth timeline that we all we all sense, we're all getting a whiff of to whatever degree that we are, and retracting our attention away from the dramas and away from the fighting and away from the right and the wrong and away from the entities. If we take our attention away from them, and because I had this dream, it was after I opened back up. I had shut down and then I opened back up because of trauma, and I was having trouble again. And so it was this dream, it must have been like 15 years ago maybe, that I had the dream. And so it was wolves and angels, and the wolves represented the demons, and I kept growling to see if they were still there, and I said this in another video, but you might not have seen that video. I think it was an astrological one. But then the other demon, then the wolves would growl, they'd growl back, and I was like, oh my God, they're still there. Are they there? They'd growl back. And the angels came, and they were like, stop growling, stop checking to see if they're there. If you put your attention on them, you're basically conjuring them to you. You're calling them to you. So, you take your attention off of them. And so again, it's like third dimensional consciousness. You have no idea that they're even there. So they can be attacking you and feeding off of you, and you have no idea, and that's not awareness. That's not consciousness. That's just being oblivious. Okay. But if you go into the fourth dimension and things are separated out, and you know that the entities are there and they're scaring the crap out of you, then at that point, that's when ignoring them is helpful, because it's a conscious choice where you're like, I know that you're there. I see you. You're oil and water, but I'm not giving you my power. I'm not giving you my attention. I'm focusing on, this water, this pure water, which is true. You're not true. You're not true. You're just feeding off of me. You can't do anything to me. You're just distracting me from my ascension. You're distracting me from my awakening. So the same can be said for the distractions in the world. If we're talking the physical realm instead of the astral realm, the same can be said for that. Like, I'm not going to get baited into the next bad thing that's happening in the world, or I'm not going to get baited into this person having a different opinion than me. It's like, fine, have your journey. I honor your journey, and and you are me, expressing and playing out a different role in this beautiful symphony of awakening. You're a catalyst, and I'm a catalyst, and the point is to align and to do this all within. And so anyway, those whatever the things are, those hooks. Okay, so this is the 4D trapping system, right? Those hooks where we just keep looking. We keep looking to the even if we don't know we're doing it, like with the entities, we just keep getting pulled into it and pulled into it and pulled into it, to have the awareness of, oh, okay, this is going on, so I'm going to consciously choose not to give my energy to that. Or we keep getting hooked into the world, or we keep getting hooked into polarity, to consciously choose to stop putting our attention to the things that are leaking our energy and holding us back, and to focus our energy on the higher timeline and onto the higher frequency energies. Gratitude, joy, what brings you joy, what makes you happy. Do you like to dance? Do you like to sing? Do you like to take walks? Do you like nature? Do you love your animals? Whatever it is, to focus on that, and to focus on having gratitude for that, cooking, whatever it is. And if you can't do any of that, even just like, okay, I'm going to make some tea. One of my favorite things to do when I feel like crap is just make some tea and like get in my jammies and curl up under a blanket and maybe read or watch something, or just be like, okay, self-love time. How can I just nurture myself? How can I just nurture myself? And maybe I'm not even going to go outside for, days or whatever until this passes, but I'm going to love myself through this, and so again, just like pulling our attention away from our worries, pulling our attention away from the things that are leaking, and putting our attention on self-love and on the things that bring us joy, the things that resonate at the higher frequency, because that's the frequency of unity consciousness. And again, embracing everything as part of being in service. So, we're not mad about the darker energies, and we're not mad about the psychic attacks. We're not mad about some weeks, having to like be up all night, fighting demons. No, this is part of how we grow, part of how we alchemize, part of how we clear our structure to allow that higher light in, part of how we clear the astral realm to allow more light in for all of humanity that hasn't necessarily signed up to do this work. And part of how, and even if you haven't signed up to do this work, it's still interesting to know how it works and to know what some people are doing. You're playing a different role. If you're not playing out this role, you're playing a different role. Maybe you're holding the stability down on the planet. You're holding the structures in place. You're holding the structures in place so that other people can, do that kind of alchemy, or maybe you're holding the light, or, it's all important. It's all important. And so even, though some of us are called to work with the polarities, and to be aware of them, and to weave them together, for humanity, that's a part that some of us are playing. Other people are playing other parts. Like there can be a polarity of a part over here and a polarity of a part over here, and that's still wholeness, because we're all one being. So put us all together, we're all playing all parts. Like in my family, my kid's dad, holds a lot of negative polarity. He's negatively aligned. He's a magician. He's brilliant, and he's conscious and all that. He's just negatively polarized, and I'm positively polarized. And so my kids have that contrast. My daughter is both, and my son is neither. It's like he's neutral. He's completely neutral. He like embraces it all. And so, again, like within the family constellations, you can notice how everybody's kind of playing their role. Even within our families, you might have a bad guy in your family, but it's like everything's in service to the light. He's playing his role to catalyze other people into their perfect role, catalyze my son into neutrality, catalyze my daughter into both, and catalyze me into my light, and whatever for him, I don't know, but I do have unconditional love for the role that he played. And so having that for the entities, having that for the people on the opposite side of the fence, having that for the whole agenda, because it's all part of moving out of 3D through 4D into 5D. The 4D passage is the hardest, it's the gnarliest, it's the trickiest, it's the trappiest, it's the it's the scariest, it's the one that you can panta. It's the one that you can kind of say hi. Oh, do you want to say hi? It's the one that you can kind of get, stuck in a sense. You can't really get stuck in it. You can't, but it can be a little tricky. So anyway, that's why I'm sharing this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope that I got that out all in the right way. I've been encouraged to just trust that I do. But yeah, so hopefully that was helpful to you. If you if you're feeling yourself kind of stuck, and just know that this is a time when we are, humanity is, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. I saw a post the other day, and it was like the light at the end of the tunnel isn't the illusion, the tunnel is, so that light, the opening is getting closer and closer, where it's like we're able to find our way out. And I feel like me sharing this video, even though not many people see my videos, it's still just even a small amount. It's like contributing to that, where we're close enough to the end where we can talk about these things and bring clarity to them. We're not so deep in the tunnel where none of us can manifest support in it. And so anyway, that's my intention. So much love to you all, and thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. And I love it. My little black kitty's coming right now. Yeah, and I'll see you next time if I do. Okay, bye-bye.